IPM News, this is 217 Today. I'm Farrah Anderson. It's Monday, April 15th. Coming up, we'll learn more about how newspapers are experimenting with different strategies to keep local news alive. That story is coming up in just a few minutes. But first, these headlines. Illinois lawmakers are moving to update the state's biometric privacy law. Facebook was sued under the law in 2015 when it tagged people in photos without their consent. It settled for $650 million because each tag was considered a violation. More than 1 million Illinoisans were paid hundreds of dollars. Democratic State Senator Bill Cunningham of Chicago has a measure that would change that. Violators would be punished the first time they take a person's data, but not every time.
Certain businesses, I believe, have been unfairly targeted by some of the lawsuits that have been brought forth. Everyone should be held accountable for not following the law, but it's important that the punishment fits the crime.
It passed the state Senate and now moves to the House. The law's main goal would stay intact. Companies must get permission before using fingerprint scans or facial recognition to gather information. The main theme for a service celebrating the life of a local educator was, quote, "It Don't Stop." IPM's May Antar has more on why.
My love for you still is the same.
On Sunday, the Follinger Great Hall at Krannert Center for the Performing Arts was packed with hundreds of people, laughing, crying, and commemorating the life of William Morris Patterson. The Urbana native earned a PhD from the University of Illinois and brought STEM lessons to the under-resourced neighborhoods he grew up in. Champaign County Clerk Aaron Ammons was a friend of Patterson. He remembers when Patterson told him to keep helping the previously incarcerated clean their records and reintegrate into society.
When you start talking about legacy building and impacting people's lives, he said the expungement summit that y'all do, don't ever let that stop. He said that's hot.
The service showcased many aspects of Patterson's life as a teacher, musician, and father. It ended with attendees saying his life and legacy should not end with Sunday's celebration of life. May Antar, IPM News.
A shooting in a Chicago neighborhood killed a 7-year-old girl and left nearly a dozen others injured. Jackie Quinn reports.
A shooting in a Chicago neighborhood killed a little girl and left nearly a dozen others injured. Police say 11 people were shot outside a home where a family gathering was taking place on Chicago's South Side. An 8-year-old girl was struck in the head and she died. An 8-year-old boy and a 1-year-old baby were also among the injured. Police on the scene were applying tourniquets and using patches to seal people's chest wounds. Police officials say they think the shooting was likely gang-related and that the violence is unacceptable. Witnesses described a black car pulling up to the scene and shots being fired. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Still to come, we'll learn more about how newspapers are experimenting with different strategies to keep local news alive. That story is next on 217 Today.
Based on real-life events, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office from Masterpiece is a shocking story of ordinary people locked in a battle against a powerful, government-owned corporation. For more than a decade, the government blamed British post office managers for missing funds, which ruined lives and reputations. But workers uncovered glitches in the post office's own computer system, which it had denied for years. Friends of WILL can binge all 4 episodes of the series now with Passport.
This is 217 Today. I'm Farrah Anderson. Over the last 2 decades, the number of newspapers in the U.S. has dropped by nearly a third. Today, more than 200 counties have no newspaper at all, making them news deserts. Rural areas have been especially impacted. But as IPM's Jim Meadows reports for Harvest Public Media, newspapers are experimenting with different strategies in an effort to keep local news alive.
Mount Vernon, Iowa has the quintessential Midwestern downtown, with a cafe, a bank, and a local newspaper. The office of the Mount Vernon Lisbon Sun faces First Street, the word newspaper written in fancy white letters on the front window. Inside the newspaper office, it's another busy day for editor Nathan Countryman.
Finishing up calendar, finishing up the special section. So I've got 2 stragglers I've got to track down, which is always fun.
The paper serves 2 small towns in eastern Iowa surrounded by farmland. Last February, Countryman learned that his paper was being sold. In an unusual move, the University of Iowa student newspaper, the Daily Iowan, a private nonprofit company, bought the Sun and another rural weekly. The new owners are keeping the staff and providing some student reporters to help out, which is good news for Countryman.
It's a lot more breathing room in those regards. It's an ability to have a Monday where I can say, I just need somebody else to cover the city council meeting.
The Daily Iowan's experiment comes as many newspapers are shrinking, merging, or closing. The local news initiative at Northwestern University has data going back to 2005. Director Tim Franklin says the decline has hit hardest in rural areas in the South, Southeast, and Midwest.
You can almost draw a straight line from the Texas-Mexico border, from, say, Brownsville, Texas, up through the spot, what I call the spine of the country. And with some exceptions, almost all the counties are either news deserts or one news outlet counties.
Franklin says declining readership and ad revenue have hurt newspapers everywhere, but it's harder for papers to stay afloat where fewer people live.
In rural areas, the problem is one of scale. Are there enough paying customers in a smaller rural community to be able to support journalism in that area?
In Ford County, Illinois, population 13,500, the weekly Ford County Chronicle is run on a for-profit basis, although no one's getting rich.
It's hard, but every job's hard, right?
That's Will Brumlevy, editor, reporter, and co-publisher of the Chronicle, a rare example today of a new newspaper replacing an old one. He and another former employee of a much older local paper started the Chronicle in 2020. Brumlevy says it's a financial risk, but they're devoted to the community.
There's not that many jobs that make you feel better about the difference you can make in other people's lives and just try to keep people informed of things they need to know. It's important.
Another publisher is trying to fill a news desert in rural West Texas. John Starkey runs a nonprofit media organization in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Last year, he bought the Ozona Stockman in Crockett County, 300 miles away. He plans to expand the paper to cover 7 rural counties, some of which have no news outlets at all.
They have spotty internet, they have spotty radio reception, and they have restricted TV because of the geographic parameters of the area. So if they don't have a newspaper, they don't have news. It's that simple.
New business models for newspapers like the Stockman are key as ad revenues slide. That's according to Benji Ham. He's director of the University of Kentucky's Institute for Rural Journalism and Community Issues. But he doesn't expect things to change overnight.
There will be more newspapers that go out of business. There will be more online sites that determine they can't make a profit. But I think there will continue to be things that emerge to replace that.
And journalists dedicated to local news. I'm Jim Meadows, IPM News.
Zachary Oren-Smith of Iowa Public Radio contributed to the story. Harvest Public Media is a collaboration of public media newsrooms in the Midwest and Great Plains, including Illinois Public Media. And finally, in your forecast, meteorologist Andrew Pritchard says today will be sunny with a high of 82 degrees. That's it for today. Reporting today contributed by Alex Stegman, Kate Grumke, May Antar, Jackie Quinn, and Jim Meadows. Reginald Hardwick is our news director. I'm Farrah Anderson. 217 Today is a production of Illinois Public Media. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.